Welcome to the S&D 50 Week 21. This is a show that performance ranks and rates all 136 college football teams based on-field performance alone. Spencer, welcome in. How are you today?
Doing great.
What you drinking tonight?
Drinking Liquid Death.
Whoa, that's new.
Yeah, it's been a minute, but this is the Liquid Death flavored Dr. Death. It's pretty good stuff.
Beautifully done. Jacob, welcome in. How are you? What are you drinking tonight?
Doing good, Andrew. Just drinking some ice water.
If you're new to the channel, subscribe. This is an awesome community that will give you hyper-focused, bias-free college football content. For all those who are already subscribed, thank you. We appreciate every single one of you. Keep liking these videos, comment. We love to respond to all your comments.
And for the listener out there who called out my 0-7 picks, thank you for that comment. I appreciate the love. I appreciate that you took the time to account for each one of my picks to notice that I went 0-7 to start the week.
We'll see if that 0-7 even helped me catch up to you, though.
Week 20, college football playoff in review. We had 2 games. This was the tale of 2 different competitive ratings. Miami and Ole Miss, competitive rating of 87. That ranked number 14 out of 45 postseason games. Oregon and Indiana had a competitive rating of 47.4. That was the 3rd least competitive game of the entire postseason. One game I'm on the edge of my seat. The other was turned off by halftime.
Man alive. It was actually really fun watching Indiana play. I get that they clobbered them and it was definitely non-competitive, but both games were fun to watch for 2 immensely different reasons.
Miami and Ole Miss, I was clenched up. I was so nervous because I had no idea who was going to win that game. And when Trinidad Chambliss takes in the length of the field in 8 seconds, are they really going to do this? It was such a good game. I loved every second of that Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, I thought at first when Miami gave them just 18 seconds to work with after that last touchdown, I was like, well, there's no way they can do it now. And then I was like you. I thought, no, they're going to do this. They're going to make it somehow. I think it was a miracle for Miami that they were up by 4. I think if they had been up by 3, their kicker would have just nailed like a 65-yard field goal, send it to overtime.
And Jacob, Kurt Cignetti gets the best of Dan Lanning again.
Yeah, Andrew, I know you're a Dan Lanning lover out there, but
I don't love Dan Lanning as much as I love Kurt Cignetti, but we do appreciate Dan.
But Cignetti proves that he probably is the best coach in college football right now. It's truly amazing to just watch Indiana clobber these teams in the playoffs.
I loved seeing the facade break, and at the end in that post game when he said, "I'm going to crack open a beer," I was just happy to see him happy, right? He just looked so grumpy all the time.
It was when they went up, I think it was 55-15 before they kicked that extra point. That was when on the broadcast they caught him smiling and they pointed it out.
So looking at competitive games with the CFP and the entire postseason, including all bowls and CFP, the college football playoff had 6 competitive games, 4 not competitive games. Those 4 non-competitive games were all at the bottom of the barrel. And for the postseason, 69% of the games competitive, pretty good.
Yeah, a little over 2/3. And it's not like the non-competitive games weren't fun to watch, right? There were some that came in with a non-competitive score, but it got competitive late.
And of course, the only talking point that's going to come from those non-competitive games, even though 2 of them were P4 on P4, we will only hear about how those 2 G5 teams that got clobbered. We won't hear about Bama getting clobbered. We might hear a little bit about Texas Tech getting clobbered, but definitely not Bama. We won't hear about Oregon getting clobbered, just how James Madison and Tulane got clobbered.
But for the record, Oregon was clobbered by competitive rating worse than Tulane was clobbered by Ole Miss. And that was a semifinal game. Our S&D 50 Bowl Challenge standings. We have 1 week to go, everybody. Sadly, the 3 of us do not make the top 12. Though I do have a sizable lead over the 2 of you, so that makes me happy. With 28 points, spots 9 through 12, we have Bacon Inferno 2, Lucas F, AJ, and our good friend Ben, who loves Dan Lanning. At 30 points, spots 6 through 8, Luke S, Benjamin M, and Clinton R. At number 5, Nate with 31. At spots 3 and 4 with 32 points, Nathan number 2 and Bruce Willis. James at number 2 with 33, and Nathan number 1, who has been in the lead all bowl season long, stands at 34 points. Our winner will be announced after the national championship next week. The Amazon $50 gift card will be sent after recording next week.
And if we end up in a tie, we'll figure out the tiebreaker when we get to it.
I see Lucas F there with 28 points, and I wonder if his downfall was getting a little too hot and heavy on the MAC like me and picking Central Michigan over Northwestern.
Let us know in the comments, Lucas, if you did in fact pick Central Michigan over Northwestern. We love you, Lucas. The national championship is this Monday. These two logos tell everything you need to know about this game. A smoking pelican?
I think it's a crane.
A crane? Ichabod? Sebastian?
Ron Crane.
With a bandage on him.
Yeah, they're bruised, they play dirty, they hit hard, and then you have nice, clean, simple Indiana. Here they are, my friends. Monday, the 19th, 7:30 Eastern. The rating difference is 478 points. Indiana takes on Miami in Miami. Fernando Mendoza grew up 1 mile from the University of Miami. He did Manny Diaz's quarterback camp in high school, went to high school in Miami, and last year at Cal, as the Cal quarterback, they blew a huge lead where they could have knocked off Miami. This is Fernando Mendoza's revenge game, my friends.
I love all the connections to the area, but man, this is the most unexpected title game in a long time to me. And to be clear to our listeners and the viewers here, these ratings and rankings are before any playoff games. So if we were to look at Miami today and layer in all of its wins, consecutive wins against Texas A&M, Ohio State, and Ole Miss, they would be much higher rated. But Indiana got to destroy Alabama and Oregon, so they would be higher rated as well. I don't know if they would be 1 and 2. We don't have that pulled up for you. We'll run over the full 50 to end the season, postseason, and all next week. But that rating gap, still likely close to 400 or 500 points, even with Miami's wins because of how far ahead Indiana was.
What is the fan turnout going to be? Is it going to be 50-50? Because we saw Indiana fans turn out and dominate the Peach Bowl. It looked like it was 80-20 for Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is the national title game, though, so it's not like any schmo Joe can go buy a ticket for this, as tickets are probably pretty dang pricey. But who knows?
I heard on the Cover 3 podcast that there are 800,000 Indiana alumni in the United States compared to only 200,000 University of Miami alum. So even though they're playing in their own backyard, they're outnumbered 4-1 when it comes to actual graduates of the university. And I imagine a lot of those folks are going to travel to this game. Those ticket prices were going up before either of these teams had booked their ticket. Likely that's Indiana fans more so than Miami fans.
Get this. Today is Monday, January 12th. The lowest price, including fees on SeatGeek, $3,451 per ticket.
Holy cow.
So for that reason alone, I'm going to favor Indiana shows out more. With more alumni, I'm going to say they have more money. And Miami's been to the title game before in a lot of people's lifetime. Indiana has not. I think their fans are just a little more fired up.
Who do you have in this game, Jacob?
I cannot pick a team that doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. Give me Indiana.
This hasn't done well for you the entire time, so let's hope this time it works out for you.
I saw in our challenge that I'm a point behind Jacob, so I could pick against him, go for Miami, get the tie, win the tiebreaker for picking the right national champion, but I would be wrong. And so I'm going to pick Indiana to win this game. I think 7.5. I mean, smash that line. Bet the house on that line.
Woo! Give me Indiana. They are a team of destiny. Disney will make a movie about this team. Fernando Mendoza, I cannot wait to see who they have play his character. But this, Indiana needs to complete this run because this is 16-0 would be so incredible to watch. And I just think they're dominant. And I really liked in Kurt Signetti's interview between the first quarter and the second quarter in that game against Oregon in the Peach Bowl. They're like, how do you feel about this game? How do you feel about your defense giving up that touchdown? And Kurt just says, we just need to line up correctly. And then they did, and we saw the results of just lining up correctly. The thing that worries me is Indiana's depth, but Miami's also just ravaged by so much time on the field, so we'll see. We thought it would be fun, since there was one game this week, to do playoff format comparisons and say, how would the college football playoff look under different formats than what is currently constructed?
So each of us put together what we thought would be the ideal playoff. But just as a reminder, here's what the 12 team looks like this year, according to the College Football Playoff Committee.
This is the option that I would like to present to you guys tonight, the 8-team playoff. Here's why. 1, I don't see conference championship games going away. 2, if the transfer portal dates do not change, I want the CFP to end January 1st. So we need to cut this down if we're not going to add Christmas week and we're not going to shorten the regular season. So we're going to have 4 auto bids, 4 at-large bids, no buys, home games for the quarterfinals, bowl games for semifinals and championship. The auto bids will be conference champions only. So we will make conference championships matter again. And then the 4 at-large bids. We're not going to promise the G5. If a G5 team is in the top 8, put them in. That's fine with me. But other than that, we're not going to do this whole the runner-ups automatically in or not in. Win your conference championship. Let's make the regular season matter. Conference championships matter. Then let's run it. So if we had an 8-team playoff using the S&D ratings from week 16, we would have Indiana as the number 1 seed playing Miami. Now, you would say, why is this not Duke? The ACC is at fault here. The ACC tiebreakers are why Miami did not play in that title game. If they'd played, we all know they'd beat Duke. So I put Miami in because we're just not going to put Duke in here. We're not doing that.
Giving the ACC.
The ACC's got to figure themselves out. That's staying at 8. We'd have in the 4-5 matchup, Ohio State hosting Notre Dame. Who wouldn't want to watch that? Texas Tech hosts Oregon. We know how that went in Miami. And then Georgia Ole Miss back at Georgia. Georgia gets credit. They won the SEC. They get a home game against Ole Miss. Maybe we get a different result. This thing wraps up at the Rose Bowl game perfectly. If you want to keep it at the Rose Bowl game every year for the national championship, fine by me. Thoughts, gentlemen?
The biggest shame about how the current format is that the quarterfinals are at neutral sites. So I love that you have this with the higher seeded team hosting. We always talk about the teams that are on the bye lose, and I think a big part of why they're losing is because it's at a neutral site. You get that team who gets the bye and then a home game, everything changes for that team. It makes those byes way more valuable. Obviously, it doesn't feel like they're valuable at all right now. You just have to be the best team in college football in Indiana to overcome that. And if Texas Tech hosts Oregon, I think Texas Tech might actually put something up against Oregon.
Yeah, I think Georgia wins that game if they're at home. I think Texas Tech, if not wins, it's not a blowout if it's in Lubbock. I know these are the S&D ratings, so if you haven't been following along, you know that we had Notre Dame super highly rated throughout the season. We think that Notre Dame is a playoff caliber team. Texas A&M Notre Dame game, Notre Dame Miami game. Those 3 teams are all super comparable. 2 of them played each other in the playoffs. One of them's now in the title game. Like, Notre Dame is absolutely a playoff team, and you cannot convince me otherwise. So seeing Notre Dame and Ohio State, it would be incredible.
And I just think you can expand the playoff, and I'm not against expansion. 4 felt a little small, but every game mattered, so that was awesome. I like 8 because we get no buys, we finish on time. The conferences have to figure themselves out to make sure they can get their champ in. But if conference championship games aren't going away, then I don't want a season that goes into February. This is not the NFL.
Yeah, and I will say what your proposal does right is fixing the calendar a little bit here. it doesn't fix it with National Signing Day. That's still a big issue. It absolutely fixes it with the transfer portal opening in January, and you're done by then.
If conferences would change, this would not be my proposal. But as is, I don't want to see teams just not caring about the last 2 weeks of the season. If you don't make the field, too bad. Win your conference. If you don't like the conference you're in, clearly change conferences. Go join the Big 12 if you don't like it, SEC team. Right?
Reverse course, Texas.
If we use CFP rankings, here's what the 8-team playoff would be. Indiana would put a beat down on Duke. Texas Tech hosts Oregon. Georgia hosts Ole Miss. And Ohio State hosts Texas A&M. So really not that different.
Yeah, the only flip-flop there is that Notre Dame for A&M. As people are consuming all the playoff format media this week, we wanted to highlight where the SEC and the Big Ten are. So as far as reports this week are concerned, is that they're looking at a 16-team playoff. The Big Ten wants more, and we'll get to that. But Greg Sankey wants 5 auto bids for the P4 conference champions and 1 G5 team, and then just 11 at-larges. And the SEC likes that because, in general, the middle upside of the SEC outperforms everyone else, even kind of that middle Big Ten group. Maybe they shouldn't, but they get that kind of credit right now. And so having just at large and not too many automatic qualifiers for a conference really works in the SEC's favor. Greg Sankey's going to appease Notre Dame, keep that Notre Dame lock if they're in the field thing, home games in the first round and bowl games in the quarterfinals and later. So really not too different from the 12-team playoff, but let's look at what that would look like if you added 4 more teams. Your matchups would be Indiana hosting Duke in the first round. The winner would still face the winner of the 8-9 Oklahoma-Alabama game. Then you'd have number 5 Oregon hosting BYU instead of James Madison. And the winner of that would play the winner of Texas Tech, Texas, which would be an absolutely awesome playoff matchup. Ohio State would host Tulane instead of getting a bye. Texas A&M would still host Miami. Ole Miss would host Notre Dame in their first round game instead of Tulane, as they would get bumped to go face the Buckeyes. And then Georgia would host Vanderbilt, which is a matchup we didn't get to see in the regular season.
This is what the 16-team playoff looks like using the S&D 50 Week 16 rankings with no qualifying team. So just the straight up 16 best teams.
Yeah, you do end up getting 4 conference champions in, though, which is interesting.
So initially, I hated this 16-team proposal. Looking at it in this format, I don't hate it as much. I still think there's something better, but I don't hate it as much because we've learned that getting a bye is pointless and honestly kind of hurts you. So why not just do away with all the byes and just have every team play in the first round? Because that's what this is essentially doing. Adding 4 more and making those 4 teams on the bye play.
I agree. And I really like home games. So we get all these first round games on campus at home. There is a benefit to playing well in the regular season.
Yeah, and this format you'd probably still run into January, but I think you could do this where you play those first round games just right on the heels of conference championship weekend. Then you could play the week after Christmas. Then you do your semifinals, you make them always on the 1st and the 2nd. And then you do your championship by like the 10th or something, or the 9th. It's way better than the 19th.
Okay, now we roll to my ideal model, and my ideal model is not anything that creative because it's just copying a model that works already. The model is established in the FCS, and it works because it's a true playoff format. It's not about money. It's not about bowl games. It's just about creating a true playoff that will get you the best team in the country currently playing. And if you can't make the top 24 teams, then you don't deserve to win a national title. Like, there's no argument about that. So I would just follow the FCS model where you have home games until the title game. That gives your higher seeded team such an advantage to know that they could play at home. If you're a top 2 seed, you could play at home until the title. Top 4, you're playing at home at least till the semis. 1 auto bid for every conference champion. So that makes sure that every conference has something to play for throughout the season. There would be 14 at-large bids. Highest ranked remaining are picked with the 14 at-larges. You have the top 8 seeds do get first round byes, but then they get a host coming off the bye. The remaining teams would be matched by geography. This I could do away with. The FCS sometimes does this to just help save money. You can argue me out of that point, but geography matchups would be fun anyways, because then fans are able to travel to those first round games easier. And then you work to avoid rematches in the first and second round. This is what makes a top 8 ranked team so valuable, because your seeding can get a little messy as you avoid rematches in the first round.
Does this model eliminate conference championships?
Yes. Do away with them. Eliminate conference championships. There's not a purpose to them. You just create a good tiebreaker system. If this model were already implemented, these super conferences done away and conferences go back to geography.
And just to clarify, it's 10 AQs and 14 at-larges starting next year, but this year it's 9 and 15.
So the automatic qualifiers, had this model been in place this year, would be Tulane, Duke, Indiana, Texas Tech, Plank from Kennesaw State, the Western Michigan Broncos. Who doesn't want to see them? They were playing hot at the end of the year. Boise State, Georgia, and James Madison. The at-large teams, so these teams are just chosen by highest-ranked teams, would have been Ohio State, Notre Dame, Oregon, Ole Miss, Texas, Texas A&M, Utah, Oklahoma, BYU, Miami, Alabama, Vanderbilt, USC, Michigan, and last but not least, your Navy midshipmen. So this is how it would play out. Your top 8 seeds: Indiana at 1, Georgia at 2, Texas Tech at 3, Ohio State at 4, Notre Dame at 5, baby. This is going by the S&D rankings. Oregon at 6, Ole Miss at 7, and Texas at 8. Then, as first-round matchups, James Madison would host Duke. Whoa, that would be an exciting one. You'd have
and the Duke.
Yes.
Duking it out.
Those two teams just cannot, their connection. They cheered for Duke to beat Virginia, and now they would face them in the playoffs. Anyways, you get Utah hosting USC, a old Pac-12 matchup. Michigan hosting Western Michigan.
Let's go.
Kalamazoo
and Ann Arbor would be good. That's fun.
They're not that far apart either. So that would be way fun. You get Alabama hosting Tulane. I think that one's a game. Miami hosting Navy. Texas A&M hosting Kennesaw State. Plank going to College Station. Whoo, doggy. BYU hosting Boise State. You get a geographic rivalry renewal between those two schools. And Oklahoma hosting Vanderbilt.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, to see how some of these fall, because you get Texas A&M, instead of lining up with Texas, where they would be as a 9 seed in the follow-up matchup, you get them bumping across to Ole Miss. You get Utah USC is a West Coast game. BYU Boise State's a West Coast game, but you get BYU lined up to Oregon so that USC rematch is avoided. It's really interesting to see how that affects how that gets scheduled, but I love the regional aspect of it. I know you said you could get convinced out of it. I actually think it rules.
I love this 2014 playoff. If you really can get rid of conference championships, this is how it should be. Truly, you're right, Jacob. The FCS has already figured it out, and it was amazing this year, and it's amazing every year. It's pretty simple.
The FCS playoffs is one of the funnest events to watch play out. It's my next favorite thing to March Madness. And just looking at this, and for anyone who paid attention to the FCS playoffs this year, we had a semifinal game, Montana versus Montana State, regional rivalry, one of the most heated rivalries in the country, where you get Montana State having an opportunity to host their hated rival for an opportunity to go to the national championship. Like, imagine Texas, Oklahoma meeting up in the semis, and like Texas hosting Oklahoma, which they never even get to because they always play down at the Cotton Bowl.
Now, I am like Jacob. I think 24 teams is the way to go. My perspective is a little bit different. I think you should have auto bids for all your champions, but I think you should also have 2 extra auto bids for each of the P4 leagues. I think that it's because I don't like to see one conference be too oversaturated. And I think it's a really good thing to have good representation from your power leagues. You're giving them the incentive to make that conference championship game matter, make your league play matter, play 9 games, fix your tiebreakers so it doesn't suck. I still have bowl games, have your home games in the first 2 rounds, but I think the thing that makes my preferred format a little bit more notable is you straight up seed the teams 1 through 24, except if you're a conference champion, you are guaranteed to host a game, which means if you're not already in the top 8 where you get a first round bye and you host a second round game, then you're guaranteed to host a first round game. So let's take a look at what that would look like. So you've still got your same top 8 teams. They include 3 of those 9 conference champions. But then you've only got at-larges hosting as the 9 and the 10 seed in Texas A&M and Utah before you have to start letting your conference champions from the G5 host games. You get 11 seed James Madison hosting USC, 12 seed Tulane hosting Vanderbilt, 13 seed Duke hosting Alabama in the first round, 14 seed Boise State hosting Miami, 15 seed Western Michigan hosting BYU, and 16 seed Kennesaw State hosting Oklahoma. This also forces 3 ACC teams in here where they wouldn't necessarily be in the field in the other format, and so you get the 24 seeded Pitt in addition to Duke and Miami. So Pitt would be a fun addition to the playoff as well, especially with how hot they were at the end of the season.
I'm not convinced BYU goes into Kalamazoo and beats Western Michigan if this actually were to play out.
And USC going to James Madison in the snow. Miami having to play in frigid Smurf turf.
Oh gosh.
There would be such good matchups. And I could actually be persuaded to do like a hybrid, almost like I said, like let the conference champions host, keep the same, but maybe mix up the arrangement of those visiting teams so that maybe you send USC to play at Boise State or something like that, or send BYU to play at Boise State, USC goes to Utah, send Alabama to Tulane, keep some of those that we actually saw in Jacob's 2014 format, but make sure that the conference champion is the host of all of those matchups. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
I think it would be a cool prize if you're a G5 school, 0-0 to start the year, no games played. You can confidently say, if we win all our games, we make the playoffs and we get to host a big time team here in our town. That would be such a good incentive, and it would totally salvage the relationship between the P4 and the G5.
Oklahoma traveling to Kennesaw. I don't even think Kennesaw Stadium holds 20,000.
Those tickets would be astronomical. So, Spencer, if I'm understanding this right, your 24 team playoff is you give every Power 4 conference 3 teams in no matter what. And then every G5 champion gets a spot.
And then every G5 champion gets a spot. And then you at-large your other 6. So in this format, your at-larges would actually just be Big Ten and SEC teams. Now let's talk about the Big Ten. I don't know how official this is, because the Big Ten and everything that we've been reading says that they don't like 16. They want more. They want at least 20. They're angling for 24. But back in August, a report came out that Tony Petitti, the commissioner of the Big Ten, floated a 28-team playoff with 7 auto bids for the SEC and the Big Ten, 5 for the ACC and the Big 12, 2 bids for the G5, and 2 at-large bids, which is basically, read that as Notre Dame and somebody else, with home games in the first 2 rounds and then bowl games, quarterfinals, and later. And I just thought it would be fun to see what that would look like. Your buys in this format would go to Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, and Ohio State, all of whom would host second-round games. And we went ahead and used the regular season final S&D ratings for this rather than the CFP, because we needed to figure out, okay, which 7 SEC teams are in here, which 5 ACC teams are in here. But take a look who the 27 and 28 seeds are in this playoff.
Clemson and Penn State. Baby. We're reaching now. Everybody's got a shot here.
This is what happens. If you need your 7 best Big Ten teams, it goes Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, and then there's just a big gap, and you end up with the 28 seed Penn State, 23 seed Iowa, and the 19 seed Michigan and the 17 seed USC are your other 4 Big Ten teams. It's easy with the Big 12. All three of their teams were in like the top 15 or 20 anyway. The SEC, all of their teams were stacked right up there at the top. The ACC, they get 5 teams in, including Pitt, Clemson, Virginia, Miami, and Duke. In this case, you could absolutely do away with conference championships. You wouldn't need it. But this would be fun. I actually could get behind a 28 team if there were no conference champions and you played all of those first round games conference championship weekend. Just play them every week. Run it through December. December is playoff month. Welcome to the new look college football. I could get behind this.
My favorite matchup, if we're going on the calendar of when it all goes down, BYU Penn State. Penn State with no coach had just got their back turned by Kalani Sitake, who just had been offered the Penn State job. They got to play him in Provo. It's great.
In December.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of 2 games on here. I love Iowa on the road at Ole Miss. Like that just rough, rugged, run the ball, defense first against your high-flying Trinidad Chambliss offense. I love Oklahoma Clemson. The Brent Venables connection there. I think that would be a super fun and interesting game.
And speaking of opt-outs, I think any model of 24, 28, 16, you'd have much less opt-outs because you look at that Oregon-Arizona game. Arizona had so many starters sit that you didn't get a full Arizona squad to play. This would be fascinating to see how these teams in the 20s play when they have their full roster, hopefully, if they're in the playoff like this.
In putting this together, there were certain automatic qualifiers from different conferences and all that stuff, but there was no manipulation of seeds. We just used the S&D and ran the list. And I have checked this a couple of times now, and if I'm not mistaken, there's not a single first round same conference matchup. It is all non-conference games in the first round, which is awesome. Whether it's 16, 24, 28, 24 feels like the sweet spot. I'm in favor of expansion. I think you expand the playoffs. I think you fix bowl season to just make it a little bit more player-friendly, player-focused, player compensation, and stop people from opting out. But I love an expanded playoff. Big fan.
That wraps up our show for this week. Spencer, thanks for making the graphics. You're a hero.
It was fun. It's fun to put this stuff together. Can't wait to get some of this out here in short form for people to view and share and promote with their friends and get talking. I just think the more we talk about it, the funner it is. I'm excited for some of the stuff we're going to talk about after the playoffs finally wrap up. We're going to do the full S&D 50 reveal for the final, including the postseason after the championship game. We're going to talk transfer portal. We're going to talk like our full season in review stuff coming up. I'm excited.
Jacob, you're the best. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. My honor.
Housekeeping items. So next week, this episode will come out early Wednesday.
And as I mentioned, that's the episode where we're going to go through the final S&D 50. Tune in. It's going to be a good time.
Get excited. We're pumped to reveal it. We haven't run the numbers yet, so we're excited to see what that final 50 looks like. We hope all of you have a great week. We hope you enjoy the national championship. We appreciate every single one of you. Have a fantastic new year, and we will see you next week.
Bye.